37 miracles are recorded in the four Gospels. Most people read them one at a time. A healing here, a storm calmed there, someone raised from the dead somewhere else. Separate events, separate acts of power. But when you lay all 37 together and look at them as a set, not one by one, but as a whole, something becomes visible that changes how you read every single one of them. They're not random.
Genesis 3 is one of the shortest chapters in the Bible. 5 minutes of human history. But every consequence it introduces is still running 4,000 years later when Jesus arrives. The ground is cursed. Labor becomes painful. The human body, made to live, starts to decay. The relationship between humanity and God, severed. And the natural world, which was designed to work with humanity, begins to push back. That's the damage. That's what's been broken for 4 millennia when a carpenter from Galilee starts performing miracles. So here's the question. What exactly does Jesus fix? Not vaguely, not in some abstract spiritual sense. Concretely, category by category, what does he actually restore?
The first miracle in John's Gospel is water into wine at a wedding in Cana. The family runs out of wine. In the ancient Near Eastern world, that isn't just inconvenient. It's a social catastrophe, the kind of shame a family carries for years. Jesus says nothing. He finds 6 stone water jars standing against the wall, each one holding 20 to 30 gallons, and tells the servants to fill them with water, then to draw from them and bring what comes out to the master of the feast. The master tastes it, calls it the best wine of the evening, doesn't understand why the good wine was saved for last. No one sees the moment of transformation. The water simply becomes wine. But notice what the miracle is. Scarcity replaced by abundance. Lack replaced by overflow. Genesis 3 said, provision will come through pain. This says, no. Here's the original design. That's the first data point. 23 of the 37 miracles are healings. That's not a coincidence. That's the largest single category by a long margin. A leper, which in the ancient world meant total exclusion from community, from the temple, from human touch. Jesus touches him, which was the one thing no one was supposed to do. The man is clean. A paralyzed man, lured through a rooftop by 4 friends because the crowd is too thick to enter the door any other way, carried there, walks home. A woman who has been bleeding for 12 years. 12 years of religious exclusion, financial ruin, social isolation. She reaches through a crowd and touches the hem of Jesus' robe. The bleeding stops. A man born blind. Not someone who lost his sight, someone who never had it. Jesus makes mud, applies it to his eyes, tells him to go wash. He comes back seeing. The body breaking down is Genesis 3. The body restored over and over 23 times is what happens when that sentence gets reversed. On the Sea of Galilee, a sudden storm. The disciples are experienced fishermen. They know this lake. They're terrified. Jesus is asleep in the stern. They wake him. Don't you care that we're going to die? And he stands up and speaks to the wind and the sea. Peace, be still. And it stops immediately. The sea goes flat. The disciples don't say, that was impressive. They ask each other, who is this that even the wind and sea obey him? That word, obey, is the tell. They're not describing a weather event. They're recognizing a relationship. The created order responding to someone it recognizes.
Genesis 3 fractured the relationship between humanity and the natural world. What they're watching from the bottom of that boat is what the original design looked like before the fracture. 5,000 people on a hillside, no food, one boy with 5 small loaves and 2 fish. Jesus takes the bread, blesses it, breaks it, hands it to the disciples, and tells them to distribute it. They do, to 5,000 people, with 12 baskets of leftovers. There's a second feeding. 4,000 people, 7 loaves, a few fish. 7 baskets left over. The same pattern, twice. In Exodus, Israel in the wilderness received manna, bread from heaven, enough for each day. The connection isn't accidental. Both happen in a wilderness. Both are about provision where provision has no business existing. Genesis 3, by the sweat of your face you will eat bread. This, enough, with overflow. And you didn't earn it. 3 times in the Gospels, Jesus raises the dead. A widow's son being carried out the gate of Nain for burial. Jesus stops the procession. He touches the bier, which made someone ritually unclean, and speaks to the dead man directly. The man sits up, begins to speak. Jesus gives him back to his mother. The daughter of a synagogue ruler named Jairus, 12 years old, dead by the time Jesus arrives. Mourners already in the house. He clears the room. Just 3 disciples, the 2 parents. Takes the girl's hand and says, "Little girl, get up." She does. He tells them to give her something to eat. And Lazarus, 4 days in the tomb. His sister Martha says directly, "Lord, by this time there will be an odor." Jesus weeps. Then calls Lazarus out by name. These are not healings. A healing restores what was damaged. This is something else. This is answering the final verdict of Genesis 3. You will surely die, with something that has no natural category. Death doesn't get the final word. That verdict has been appealed. 3 times, in front of witnesses, the appeal is upheld. Now, map all 37. Healed bodies, restored sight, a mind returned to itself, 12 years of bleeding stopped, a spine straightened, lepers clean, a storm silenced, nature cooperating where it had been hostile, bread from almost nothing, wine from water, 12 baskets of surplus where there was no food, 3 people walking out of death. Every category maps onto a consequence introduced in Genesis 3. Not some of them, all of them. Which means the miracles aren't proof that Jesus is powerful. They're a demonstration of what he came to do. He's producing, in real events, in verifiable places, in front of named witnesses, a world where the damage is reversed. Locally, temporarily, but really. On the 3rd day, the tomb is empty. Mary Magdalene comes before sunrise, finds the stone rolled away, finds the burial cloths folded neatly inside, as if whoever was wearing them simply left. She sees a stranger in the garden, assumes he's the gardener. He says her name. That evening, behind locked doors, Jesus is in the room. Not through the door, in the room. He shows his hands. He eats fish on the shore of Galilee the following week. He is touched. He holds conversations. He cooks breakfast. Paul, writing to Corinth, calls Jesus the firstfruits of those who have fallen asleep. Firstfruits is an agricultural term. The first portion of the harvest brought in before the rest is gathered. A pledge that the rest is coming.
The firstfruits don't complete the harvest. They guarantee it. 37 times, Jesus demonstrated that the consequences of Genesis 3 are reversible. Each miracle was a preview. The resurrection is the preview becoming permanent, not a demonstration of what can be reversed, the reversal itself. For him first, and according to Paul, eventually for everything. That is what all 37 were pointing toward. If this framing is new, reading the miracles not as isolated acts of power, but as a sustained, organized argument, that's what this channel is about. The Bible is not a collection of separate stories. It's one text. And the patterns running through it, the echoes between Genesis and the Gospels, between the prophets and the letters of Paul, those aren't coincidences. They are the load-bearing structure of the thing. The next video is the Sermon on the Mount. Why Jesus gives it from a mountain, what that mountain is meant to echo, and what it means that he says, "You have heard it said, but I say to you." Subscribe if that's the kind of reading you want. The text rewards attention. The lamp is still burning.